Hello and welcome to my channel. So today we are going to discuss endocrine system. And in endocrine system basically we talk about hormones. So it releases hormones in the body's general circulation and most often through blood to affect other cells and tissues at a distance. So now there are three kind of cells which we will be discussing, like autocrine, which act on themselves, then we have paracrine and endocrine. Autocrine cells, they wherever they are secreted they act on themselves, whereas paracrine cell they act on the neighboring cells. uh, on the other hand, these endocrine cells, they go to the distant places and they act on far molecules. So the three type of hormones which we'll be discussing will be peptide hormone, steroid hormone and tyrosine derivatives. So the peptide hormones, they are derived from peptides, short amino acid chains linked together by peptide bonds. So peptides are short proteins, therefore peptide hormones are generally polar and water soluble, allowing them to move freely through the bloodstream. And they cannot easily diffuse through the nonpolar cell membrane. So they require the presence of a receptor on the surface of the cell in order to effect an action. Now when the peptide hormones bind to the receptor on the cell surface, there are multiple ways the receptor may respond. So this receptor may act as an ion channel, or it may interact with other proteins to create an ion channel effect, or it can also undergo like G protein coupled receptor system. That is one of the type of receptor system in the cell signaling process. So the type of hormone secreted by different, anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary, parathyroid, pancreas, thyroid, this we will be discussing. So under anterior pituitary comes flat peg. This is a mnemonic to remember them. So we have FSH, LH, ACTH, TSH, prolactin, endorphins and growth hormones. And posterior pituitary we have oxytocin and ADH, that is adrenocorticotropin hormone. Pancreas we have glucagon and insulin. For parathyroid we have PTH, parathyroid hormone, and for thyroid we have calcitonin. So let's discuss about the steroid hormones first. Steroids have a special characteristic that they have this four-ring fuse structure. So the four-ring fuse structure tells us that the particular molecule is a steroid. So they are derived from cholesterol, which also has this four-ring fuse structure. And in the bloodstream, they require a protein transport molecule to carry them. In contrast to peptide hormones, they are able to directly diffuse through cell membrane. And as a result, they do not require presence of a receptor system on the cell membrane to affect their action. They can directly pass through the membrane and can bind to receptors in the cytosol. Also, they can be transported to the nucleus and affect transcription by binding to DNA. Now, adrenal cortex has the hormones called cortisol and aldosterone, whereas gonads have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So let's see how peptide versus steroid hormones, how they act. So this is a peptide hormone. When it binds to the receptor on the cell surface, so due to binding of hormone to the receptor, the G protein coupled receptor system gets activated, and the enzyme, that is adenylate cyclase, it converts ATP to cyclic AMP, that is the secondary messenger, which will further activate the protein kinases, which will be required for various metabolic effects. On the other hand, if we see the steroid hormone, which are non-polar in nature and they are not that, they can just enter inside the membrane very freely. So they can target the nucleus. They bind to the hormone receptor on the surface of the nucleus and they directly go for gene transcription. They act on DNA level, can convert it to mRNA and directly to protein. These are some of the steroid hormones. So cholesterol, a 27 carbon compound, steroid compound, which is again has a four-ring fuse structure. Estradiol, it has two OH groups, which makes it ol. Ol means alcohol. Then we have progesterone with two carboxylic C double bond O, CO minus, CO minus. Testosterone with one C double bond, two C double bond O and two OH. And then aldosterone with multiple OH groups. Cortisol also has multiple OH group along with C double bond O. Tyrosine derivatives. They are derived from the amino acid tyrosine, that's why we call them derivatives. And there are two different type of tyrosine derived hormones, thyroid hormone and catecholamines. Now thyroid hormones, they are like steroid hormones in that they can pass directly through the cell membrane. Whereas catecholamines, called epinephrine and norepinephrine, they act like peptide hormones and they bind to Cell surface receptors and their effects like peptide hormones, they are very fast. For example, the catecholamines control the fight or flight response, which may take seconds to trigger and which may last only about 10 minutes in total. So, tyrosine derivatives are very small hormones in contrast to peptide and steroid hormones, because obviously they are amino acid based. Now, thyroid hormones, we have T3 and T4. T3 contains iodine atoms and T4 has 4 iodine atoms. Adrenal medulla has epinephrine and norepinephrine. Now, few diseases which are associated with endocrine system. First, we have diabetes. So, no insulin is made in diabetes and no insulin receptors, or no insulin receptors are working. The main problem in diabetes is that glucose cannot enter the cells, and high blood sugar level, cells starved of sugar leads to fatty acid metabolism, and there is sugar in urine leading to more water in urine due to osmosis. Second, we have hypothyroidism. It has decreased thyroid hormone, low metabolism. Goiter develops from an accumulation of thyroid hormone precursor lacking iodine. Third, we have hyperthyroidism, too much thyroid hormone, high metabolism, gigantism, that is too much growth hormone during growing age, but it is in well proportion. Whereas acromegaly, it is also too much growth hormone later, but it's later on in life and it's disproportionate growth of certain areas of the body. That's all for the video today. Thanks for watching.